Is this the focus of the future, Nick?
Morty, it really looks like they did it.
DJI set out to create the focus system of the future by combining wireless focus pulling with disruptive LiDAR and AI technology for advanced automated focus. The result is a truly innovative lens control system that brings machine learning autofocus in the hand of creators, independent filmmakers, studios and higher-end productions alike, while supporting collaborative workflows. The Focus Pro controls all manual lenses like classic cine lenses, anamorphic lenses, super wide-angle lenses, vintage photo lenses and zoom lenses. DJI improved their already excellent LiDAR system and added brand new lens control units, a 3-channel hand unit, a grip control unit and strong motors with built-in controllers. This makes the LiDAR system work with all cameras without a gimbal, including high-end cinecams. We had access to the Focus Pro before the official announcement to take you on a deep dive, including explaining how the system works, what features it offers, how you set it up, how to rig it, and how to operate it. We tested the Focus Pro in different scenarios, including a whole set of stress tests that would be impossible for PDAF and humans. And of course, we tried to fool the AI to figure out its limits. We have a lot to go through, and a lot of what the Focus Pro does feels a bit like magic. Can the DJI Focus Pro deliver on what the unique concept promises? Let's dive into the future of focus. We don't get to review a lot of products that deserve the name Disruptive. So when DJI contacted us and told us about the Focus Pro, we were quite excited. The Focus Pro is an AI-driven focus system that works on any camera and any lens. So it works on your Red, your Alexa, your IMAX camera if your name is Nolan. And does it work? It surely does. And it's quite liberating when you think about it, because this is a vintage rehoused lens on a cinecam. This is quite amazing. But even though the Focus Pro brings autofocus to a whole new realm and uses machine learning and all those things, that's not even the disruptive part. I think what's really, really exciting and disruptive about the product is the collaborative nature of it. Let me show you. I just engaged something that DJI coined the automatic manual focus. And that means while the system has still autofocus tracking active, so you can see how the system pulls focus on my face, if you look at the focus knob of the hand unit, you can see it spins and its orientation will always stay corresponding to the focal plane and the markings of your lens. So if you have marking on the hand unit, they're always at the right orientation. It's pretty awesome, huh? And that's not even the coolest part about the Focus Pro. Let me show you one more thing. I can interact with the Focus Pro system. So let's say I'm right here and I want to pull focus on the lens here in front. I can do so without disengaging the autofocus system. And what you can see here, but you can't feel, is the tactile feedback that the system gives me. So when I pull away from where the focus plane is according to the focus system, the resistance gets more and more. It's like a rubber band between me and where the focus is at this time. This is just brilliant. DJI does it with a magnetic system included in the system. We will explain everything about it. We're gonna go through the setup, we're gonna test the hell out of it, we're gonna make suggestion tips, everything. It's gonna be a deep dive. And to do that, it can be quite lengthy. So if you want to jump to any chapter or you want to jump to something that interests you in particular and come back to other things later, the chapters are right there for you. Just be aware that all the information we give you builds on each other, so to watch it in sequence is the right way to go. We don't just want to educate you, we want to entertain you too. So let's have some fun with Nick and Morty and how we got hold of the Focus Pro with our spoof AutoFocus.
Oh, Nick, don't you wish there was an AI for focus? That would be the best focus puller in the world.
Morty, if there is ever such a thing, I will bring it right here, right now. I got it, Morty! The future focus! It's right here! I got it, Morty! The focus of the future! Laser-powered depth mapping and AI subject recognition! I got it, Morty! The focus of the future! Collaborative man-machine learning! Face recognition works in dust! Recognizes faces! Cars! Time machines!
I was here first.
Where you come from?
First of all,
I was here
give me
first.
That, give me that.
Wasn't I?
Oh, no, that's time. There's no first.
What did you do, Nick?
I sent them to an eternal loop of stupidity, surrounded by idiots.
Oh God, you sent them to Orlando?
Actually, Morty, I sent them right into TikTok.
Where did you get the future focus from, Nick? Did you break into the vaults of Skynet?
I got it from you, Morty.
Wait, what? When?
About 10 minutes from now.
Oh.
You'll find a little making of AutoFocus with Nick and Morty later in this episode. The DJI Focus Pro is very different to common autofocus systems like face detection autofocus, short PDAF, that don't provide any collaborative abilities. The Focus Pro is about integrating the automated focus with a free focus pulling experience and extremely valuable focus assist features. On the push of a button, the Focus Pro enables an AI-driven subject recognition to lock onto a target and keep it in focus automatically. The Focus Pro works with any lens as it doesn't rely on the main camera's image itself. Therefore, it even works with the most wonky lens choices from super vintage to anamorphic and in low light situation. DJI's goal was to craft a system that collaborates with creators and crews and almost works like a human focus puller would, but adding superhuman precision to the mix. The automated focus and focus assist features of the Focus Pro use LiDAR technology to create a depth map of the scene. LiDAR is an acronym for light detection and ranging. The DJI LiDAR unit emits infrared laser rays that you can't see with your bare eye, or camera sensors that are shielded against infrared. But if you film the same scene with an infrared camera, the LiDAR unit turns into a lighthouse. In a close-up you can see that the LiDAR transmitter creates a pattern of rays. The long wavelength with low power is harmless to your sensor or retina. The laser light bounces off objects and those reflections are detected by the system's receiver. The time of flight or TOF is used to develop a depth map of the scene. An AI uses the depth map and the image of the internal camera to recognize humans and vehicles automatically. The system also allows to choose a flex spot of an object in the scene. The system will lock onto the desired object and track it. Some camera sensors are susceptible to infrared pollution, but even if we film the subject in infrared or in full spectrum with no filtering, the LiDAR pattern is not visible in the image, so you don't have to worry about interference. Unfortunately, you can't record or access the depth map for VFX or grading work, so we scanned Morty with a phone LiDAR for a depth of field effect in post. Wouldn't that be an awesome feature for the future DJI? Think of the possibilities. The DJI Focus Pro is not one device, it's a focus ecosystem that consists of several devices. Besides the LiDAR unit, the DJI Focus Pro consists of a hand grip system with a small screen that can operate the Focus Pro right from the camera. A wireless Fizz hand unit, Fizz standing for Focus, Iris and Zoom, with some pretty magical features. And motors with integrated controllers and antennas that connect wirelessly to the hand unit or wired to the hand grip. The DJI Focus Pro integrates seamless into existing DJI Pro gear like the transmission system, which makes a lot of sense for remote Fizz operation, and also adds some really amazing focus assist features that give even high-end systems a run for their money. It can easily scale and adjust to the needs of a shooter, production or specific shot. We will go into details with all parts of the system and test them extensively. The price makes the Focus Pro relatively accessible too, especially when compared to high-end cinema solutions that lack the intelligent autofocus. DJI offers the Focus Pro Creator Combo without the hand unit for $999 and the all-in-one combo with the hand unit for $1,849. All units are available separately, allowing you to grow into the system and get additional parts like iris and zoom motors or a DJI transmission along the way. Before we go into all the details about what's in the box, setup, rigging, operating and testing the hell of the Focus Pro, let's take one step back and explain to you our journey with the Focus Pro. We are big advocates for manual focus, but admittedly there are countless situations where autofocus makes sense, especially when one has to shoot by himself a lot. Sometimes I pull focus on myself with a small hand unit like a Nucleus Nano, keeping the action right out of frame. I don't have to tell you how unpractical that is. Driven by the need to have an automated focus option, I started to experiment a lot with the original DJI LiDAR. That allowed us to finally shoot those scenes with the lenses and cameras that we wanted to use and had the AI human recognition function. We posted some of our experiment on our Instagram account. Follow us there to see what we are working on. Our series of tests showed a lot of potential for the DJI LiDAR. PDAF has to rely on the image of the camera and it requires several lenses. The DJI LiDAR seemed like a pathway to what we really needed. The main problem with the LiDAR was that it only worked properly when it was connected to the DJI's R3 Pro gimbal. The R3 Pro provided the screen and controls to add lenses, choose modes and subjects. To give our larger cinecams access to the system, we started to mount the gimbal folded to the side of the cam, effectively using it as a grip. Not that you couldn't mount these cameras on a gimbal, the R3 Pro is surprisingly strong, but for the majority of shots, you don't want your camera on a gimbal. There are other offerings like the very affordable PD Movie Live Air 3. Morty Films has a test episode about that one. It works well as a digital tape measure, but Morty's video also inadvertently shows why a Ranger without AI subject recognition has limited use. It simply focuses on whatever enters the center of the image. Human gestures can and probably will mess up your focus. The really important part of an automated focus system is the machine learning that gets updated and improves the understanding of what is going on in the scene. Ultimately, all available systems showed promise, but all were missing key ingredients. For a year we were in the ears of DJI on all available channels to give us a grip unit that allows us to control the LiDAR without the gimbal and to extend the 3 available lens slots to something more usable. You cannot imagine how excited we got when DJI not only delivered exactly what we desired, but a focus system on top of that would deliver everything we could ever dream of. Full disclaimer, we collaborated with DJI for this episode. Duh. Where else would we get the Focus Pro before the official release? This is why this episode is marked as a paid promotion. But that doesn't mean that we can't give you our honest opinion on the Focus Pro based on our tests and our experience. We also hope that DJI can get something out of this, because some of the ideas we got and that we communicate with you might help them to improve the Focus Pro with ideas that you can only come up with when you throw the system into battle.
If you haven't recognized him, our Morty is Morty from Morty Films, and he totally changed his look, so it might be that you don't get it's him. He has an excellent filmmakers channel, and we are very, very happy that he was willing to collaborate with us on this episode.
If you have time after this episode, go check out an episode of my channel, because I'm trying to hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of this year.
It's definitely worth checking it out. Cut! Martini!
If you are buying a Focus Pro Creator Combo, you will get the grip, the LiDAR, one motor and a carrying case. In the all-in-one combo, you will also get the FIS hand unit. To actually have FIS control, you would need 2 additional motors, of course. The carrying case can hold the all-in-one combo with 2 additional motors and an extra battery. This is the Focus Pro LiDAR that is the eye and ranger of the system. It looks very similar to the first generation LiDAR. A red cycle around the lens makes them instantly distinguishable. Just like the original LiDAR Ranger, the Focus Pro LiDAR consists of the LiDAR itself and a built-in wide-angle camera, but it has some updates under the hood. It almost doubled the ranging points and extends its general reach to 20 meters. The system now supports 15 lenses instead of just 3. On one side of the LiDAR you find 2 USB-C ports. One is for the image and depth map and the other for updates and to send data to the transmission system. On the other side there are 2 function buttons. The back has indicator LEDs that show which lens bank is in use and the status. The hand grip looks like an RS3 gimbal but without the gimbal itself, and without the joystick and the mode control switch. If you're not familiar with the DJI gimbal, the hand grip itself is an exchangeable battery. You can mount the grip in many ways to either side of about any camera. The construction and connectors are sturdy enough to hold even heavier cinecams, though the leverage requires you to support with the other hand. The touchscreen allows you to operate the system with your thumb while holding the camera, which works surprisingly well. You can set up and choose lenses, change LiDAR installation distance, change tracking sensitivity and many other things by swiping through the UI. When the LiDAR is attached, the screen also displays the image of the integrated wide-angle camera. You can choose your tracking targets on the screen by tapping on them or draw a box around targets that are not faces or vehicles. Next to the screen is a record button and an M button to switch between automated and manual focus, and if you enabled it, automated manual focus, more about that in a minute. On the front is an additional button and a focus wheel. The resistance can be set by the user. There is a total of 3 USB-C ports on the hand grip. One will control and power a motor. One connects to the LiDAR unit. The USB port on the right side can connect to a camera to enable features like run stop using the record button of the hand grip and the hand unit.
Down Louisiana, close to New Orleans, we're back up in the woods, I'm on the upper rooms. Doing it all, Kevin at the first and wood, really if you can't be born, named Johnny B. Good. Who never ever learned to read or write so well, but you could play guitar just like a ringing a bell. Go, 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 Johnny, go, go.
The hand unit is a professional wireless handheld fist controller. While it looks straightforward and simple, it has some wild things under the hood, making other options on the market look like toys. You control focus with a large knob, the iris with a slider, and the zoom with a rocker. After calibration of a lens, the ranges of that lens are mapped automatically to the range of the controllers. A small display gives crucial infos and lets you navigate through the menus. A LED indicates if the hand unit is paired to a motor. The wheel and iris controller are illuminated so you can easily find them and see your markings even in pitch black conditions. The focus ring is exchangeable so you can have different ones pre-marked for different scenes. The focus knob is motorized with a magnetic system that makes some really cool things possible. Magnetic dampening allows to set the desired resistance, and automated manual focus locks the knob's orientation to the corresponding focus position of the lens, meaning that the markings remain correct. While the Focus Pro is pulling focus automatically, the focus wheel turns to the right position in real time. It feels a bit like a ghost in the machine. Again, all your markings remain correct at all times. But this is not all. The focus puller can intervene at any time without disabling the autofocus. The further the focus puller pulls against the autofocus, the more the focus knob tries to pull back. Imagine the tracking point and the focal plane controlled by the puller are connected by a rubber band, giving permanent tactical feedback about the discrepancy. This is just brilliant. If the puller releases the knob, it quickly springs to the position of the tracking point. The hand unit can be attached to the DJI transmission monitor. This will provide a live view of your camera. If you set up the Focus Pro to be controlled with the transmission system, the monitor shows fantastic focus assist features. More about that in the chapter How It Works. Another cool gimmick, some of the UI of the hand unit now appears on the transmission monitor instead of the tiny display on the unit itself. The DJI motors have grown up since the last iteration. They now have 50mm clamps. They are quite strong and feature built-in controllers and antennas, which means they can connect wirelessly with the hand unit without a grip. There are 2 USB-C ports, one to connect the motor to the grip or transmission system, or to power it directly with the included USB-C to D-tab connector, the other to daisy chain additional motors. Both ports can do both types of connection. One button can switch fizz modes and a LED indicates the status of the motor. DJI supplies stickers so you can mark your motors as F or I or Z. Of course, there are as many setups and rigs as there are shooting situations, but there are 3 general setups for the Focus Pro. The first setup is for single shooters using only the grip to control the Focus Pro. Just rig the grip and the LiDAR onto your camera, a motor to a 50mm rod, connect the motor and the LiDAR with the included USB cables and done. If you should use Lumix cameras, they support the DJI LiDAR, so you can also use native lenses without motors or calibration. That works great on the R3 Pro with the old LiDAR, but at the moment it doesn't with the grip and the new LiDAR. I'm sure this is because of the beta firmware. The second setup is for collaborative work or for creators that are not on their camera. The Focus Pro can be controlled from the grip or from the hand unit. The setup and wiring is just as the one for the single shooters, but you link one of the motors up with your hand unit. You can use the transmission in the setup just for monitoring. The third setup is for remote control in combination with the DJI transmission system. This setup requires a different wiring with an optional USB hub. In this setup you don't wire up the grip, but you use the transmission monitor and the hand unit to operate the Focus Pro. This will give you advanced focus assist features. The grip comes with a variety of mounting options based on a NATO rail clamp, and DJI included some clamps to attach the grip to 50mm rods. Ideally, you attach the grip directly to the NATO element of your camera cage. The LiDAR Pro should be placed above and as close to the entrance pupil of the lens as possible. This is important during very close focus, as the LiDAR might measure the distance of the subject's throat instead of the eyes. The included cold shoe mount is very far off the center, not flexible and only suitable for short lenses and mirrorless bodies. For our use cases, this rigging option is pretty close to useless. At this time, the user has to come up with a better rigging solution if they want to use the LiDAR on professional rigs. Unintentionally, DJI delivers the right rigging tool with the Focus Pro. We used the 50mm clamp that comes with the grip unit and attached the LiDAR with 2 metric screws. Now you can easily rig the LiDAR to a 50mm rod attached to the top plate of the camera or cage. This gives a very flexible installation distance for different lens types. It leaves enough space for smaller matte boxes and even small teleprompters. The LiDAR can swing away for easier access during lens changes and retract for transport. DJI could offer something similar that would give additional height control and print a ruler on the rod. This would allow to instantly see the installation distance even if you should have forgotten to pack your ruler. The motors attach to standard 50mm rods. As they are quite thick, you might have to rig them on different rods and/or orientations to reach narrow lens gears. With a single push on the button, the motor changes its mode. A double push calibrates the motor if it's not used on the grip. A long press lets it go into a pairing mode. Multiple motors have to be wired in sequence and only one motor needs to be linked to the hand unit to control all. Setting up your lenses can be done with a grip, through the Ronin app and with the transmission monitor. DZO Cyber Primes communicate the focus position automatically with the system and don't need to be set up. In theory, as it doesn't work with the pre-release version of the Focus Pro as it did with the old LiDAR R3 combo. We presume that this is a limitation of the early firmware that we are using and hope this will be enabled along the way. The Cyber Primes are awesome in the context. Having the already lovely Vespid Primes as a plug-and-play version to work with automated focus is priceless.
As you can see on the screen of the display of the grip, there's a yellow box around my head, which means I'm recognized and tracking is active for my face, meaning that the
follow focus will stick to my face and not to the ones on the screen, which are recognized too. As you see, they have boxes around the faces too, but in white. I'm now going to show you how you change the target from me to one of those guys. All you have to do is to grab the wheel of the grip, and then you can, by turning, switch from one target to the next one. One in the middle and to the right, and like, you have to get a bit used to it, and then it works quite well. You can, of course, also take the hand wheel to do the same thing. Let me show you. And there. Me, Morty, Nick, me. If the object you want to film is actually a car, not a face, it works just as well. The system recognizes cars like it does human. Of course, unless it's not completely going away into a cloud, then the system automatically pulls back on me, which is interesting to know. If you want to focus on a human or a car which is further than 7 meters away, you have to go into zoom mode, and what you do here is you press this button. So now this, as you can see, has jumped into the screen, and it's a 2x zoom factor, and that not only gives you a complete other target range, but it also reduces the field of view in which the system reacts. But as you can see, it still works to pull focus on close objects. It just doesn't work if I leave the screen now, which I would have been still inside the screen if we were in the wide mode. Let's say I wanted to focus on something that is neither a human being or a car, and I wanted to, let's say, focus on this camera. What I have to do to make that happen is to go to the screen and press here, and then its flex spot is active. And now what I'm going to do is drive a box around what I focus, and you can see the AI automatically isolated the object I wanted to focus on, in this case the camera, and that means I can drag the camera around and the focus will stay on the camera. And if I pick it up and change the orientation, you can see that the AI perfectly recognizes this object even if I change the position. Now, the lock will be lost in the second I remove it out of the frame or I cover it with another object. We can try that. And as you can see, it doesn't really recover when it completely exits the frame. Let's check out automated manual focus, a real highlight of the system that I already explained a bit in the intro. So if you are in automatic manual focus, like we are right now, we can see that when I move around, the hand grip turns with the focus plane. So the markings and everything is still correct. And even better, you get tactical feedback when you pull away. The little wheel on the hand grip changes accordingly too. So it's all like a phantom is pulling stuff here around. So again, when I, for example, now my face is recognized, you can see it's tracking my face, not the guys in the background. But let's say I wanted to pull to the guys in the background. Now I am on Nick, and now I am on Morty, me, Morty, me, Morty, me, Morty. And the further I pull out, the more resistance the system gives me. So I have a pretty good idea on how far I'm out. It's like a rubber band that is actually connected to the focus point where the tracking is on and the focal plane. The further I move it out, the more tactical feedback I get. And of course, I don't just have to release the button, what I'm doing right now. I can very slowly go back to. And it really, you get a very good idea when your point is coming, because the resistance then goes back to nothing. Pretty awesome. I changed the setup a little bit. I rewired the system with the USB hub, and now we control the Focus Pro with the transmission system in control mode. And as you can see on the screen, we have very advanced focus assist feature, and let me show you that. With the control, you have here a menu, and you can see we can switch between manual focus and autofocus. Of course, you can do that on the hand unit as well. You can go from wide to flex spot, and you can calibrate the lens on the screen. And this is very important because only if you calibrate the lens inside of the control mode of the monitor, you get one of my favorite features of the whole system. Let me show you that. You have to have this picture-in-picture on. And if we go out, we have a little box popping up here. And this little box is actually a representation. Let me switch on the focus. Bam, I'm in focus. And this little screen is a representation of what the hand grip screen actually was. It's the image of the camera of the LiDAR. And not only that, it takes the depth map and puts it on top of that image and does something really weird with it. Because as you can see, my face should be green right now. I'm not looking at it, so it should be green. And everything that is in the focal plane behind me, so further away, should be blue. And if I put something closer to it, you see it should be red. And this is just brilliant. So we have a color marked depth map of the image, which is just so fucking cool. So there are two other features that I want to talk about. They are not new. They were also available with transmission with the old LiDAR system, but they're still absolutely awesome. As you can see, we have a scale on this side, and this scale simply tells me how far the object is away from the sensor. And what you see right next to it is a 3D map of the room. And you can see when it changes, when I put it in front of the LiDAR and hide my face, it will pull to that. You can really see that. You can really see the fingers. Do you remember how I explained how LiDAR works in the beginning? Yes, it's that 3D model, but just from the top. This is really awesome. And of course, as long as the system is focusing on me, the two scales should be in synchronicity. Is that even an English word? I don't know. So we go into manual focus now. And now I can basically pull around, and you can see that the one scale changes, but the other doesn't, because I remain in place. So let's say I wanted to focus on my hand instead of my face. I just had to disengage the autofocus, and then I can exactly tell where the hand is by focusing to that object or back on my face. It is very, very helpful for a professional focus puller, or if you're not professional at all, it helps even more. I think we covered most of the important basic features and some of the really cool features of the system, so it's time to see how the system fares in real life situations in our test segment. We will shoot our test on an Arri Alexa because, hey, an Alexa with autofocus is pretty cool. Let's start with some simple focal length test using our rehoused vintage Canon FD because they open up very wide for some extra shallow depth of field. With our rig out of hell, we shoot everything on a Lumix S5 2X simultaneously, so we can compare the performance of the Focus Pro with the PDAF. The BS1H films the interfaces of the LiDAR and the PDAF, so you can see if and when subjects are recognized. Our main test will be a long focus pull, and the subject will walk from side to back to front lighting to make it a bit harder for the subject recognition. Our first contender is a 55mm at a moderate f4. The Focus Pro does a solid job. It lacks a tiny bit at sensitivity 3, but the slower pulls look more like what a human would do. If you cover both eyes, the system will pull to the object in the center, so in this case the hand. Back and forth still looks organic. Let's make this a lot harder by opening up to f1.2. A human puller would struggle to keep focus, especially if the subject movements are not predictable. Still, the Focus Pro performs well. A little hide and seek doesn't mess up the system, but the Focus Pro will focus to the background when it loses the face. As lagging gets a bit more obvious with the shallow depth of field, let's see how it looks when we put the sensitivity up to 5. Performance is now surely superhuman and the lagging disappeared. At sensitivity 5, the motors just get very hectic and the pulls are very fast. This is more recommendable if you film action sequences. Let's see how the PDAF performs in direct comparison. The Lumix with a kit zoom looks solid at f4. Definitely okay for content creation or events, but there is considerably more lag on the PDAF. That would be unacceptable for narrative work. In this setup, it seems like the PDAF is less inclined to pull away from the subject, which can be good or bad. At hide and seek, the PDAF looks better as it's not irritated by the absence of a subject. Of course, the kit zoom doesn't open much further, so we continue with the 24mm. Wider focal lengths are easier to focus, and it isn't surprising that the Focus Pro performs with near perfection. The lag is still there, but it's not obvious in this context. The AI is not confused when you challenge it with the movement of the subject or have the face partially or fully covered. As you can see on the display of the hand grip, 24mm on-array open gate has about the same field of view as the LiDAR's internal camera. So it is interesting to see how the Focus Pro performs on the far sides of the frame. No problems are apparent. Hide and seek is also no real challenge to the system. At any time you can switch to manual focus, and controlling the iris is also no problem. PDAF has also no problems with a scene like this, and it's almost as good as the Focus Pro. But keep in mind that PDAF only works with servo lenses, limiting the use a lot. With an 85mm, the depth of field is much more narrow. Performance is still good. I just came closer than the minimum focus distance for a second there. This is a typical interview focal length, so let's try a worst-case interview scenario. In interviews, you might choose to use AutoFocus because the interviewee is excited and moves around a lot. You tell him that he can't gesture too much as it irritates the PDAF, but instead of listening, it gets more and more. Now you tell him that he should stay on the same plane because you can't look at him and the monitor at the same time. Which of course he will honor by leaning in and out even more, bringing tears to your eyes. This is around the time when all hell breaks loose and he gets manic and he forgets everything you just told him, simulating a stroke and giving you the cold shoulder. Amazingly, the Focus Pro just saved your ass. During the whole time, the motor worked hard, but operation was still inaudible. This alone would justify the investment for me. Anamorphic lenses are generally harder to focus as they're considerably softer and the focus doesn't bite on your screen, especially with a Cinecam like the Alexa that is a bit soft in itself. As the Focus Pro doesn't rely on the image of the camera sensor, it is the ideal companion for anamorphic lenses, so let's throw on a 2x anamorphic DZO Pavo. The performance of the Focus Pro is pretty much flawless. I wouldn't expect a human to be able to match this. Even with 2x stretch, the 75mm has a smaller field of view than the LiDAR. That means perfect edge-to-edge performance. Unlike PDAF, that doesn't really exist for anamorphic in the first place, the Focus Pro can predict a subject before it actually enters the screen. There is generally the problem that if your subjects access the scene completely, the LiDAR sometimes doesn't really get what to focus on. But in the second it grabs onto the subject, it is rock solid. At f4 and even at the maximum aperture of f2. Try to do this by hand. Let's throw on something extremely wide with the 2x anamorphic Pavo 28mm. You can see on the screen of the grip that 28mm 2x anamorphic is much wider than the field of view of the LiDAR, so the Focus Pro will lose tracking towards the far sides of the frame. But with such wide anamorphic, your subject would be more towards the center because of the distortions. Beside that, the performance is very good. On a push of a button, we are in manual operation. If we leave the iris wide open, the lag gets way more obvious, but I would still say that you get very usable results. We also threw on a 40mm spherical that should have the same field of view like the 28 2x, but strangely had a bit less. 40mm spherical has basically everything always in focus except for very close-up shots, so this doesn't really bring anything enlightening to the table. And that means it is time for zoom. Zooms are quite interesting because it's not clear to us how the Focus Pro calibrates them. We use the automatic setup with the app as the DZO Cutter Ace we have here is in the DJI lens library. We also tried to set it up manually and did so at the widest end of 35mm. It works just fine with that, but we suspect that it does so because the Ace are parfocal. If the focus changes over the range, how would the system figure it out? At 35mm, everything is as expected, we have full fist control, and when we zoom into 80mm, we are still perfectly in focus. Parfocal zooms are great. At this focal length, we can see something interesting that we didn't notice in the test before. We lose focus right before I touch the wall that is pretty much exactly 11 meters away. I remembered that you could switch to a 2x mode on the screen and that this not only enlarged the zoom factor of the screen but also improved the far-ranging capabilities. And as we see, the close range still works. Now let's try the far range again. And we zoom in again, and lo and behold, the Focus Pro holds the focus perfectly. Let's see if it does so even if we get into the minimum focus distance range. It does, and absolutely flawless too. Now, does that mean you should always shoot in 2x mode? Should we have done the whole test in 2x mode? No. Unfortunately, the 2x mode doesn't just concentrate on the far range, it also halves the field of view. All subjects that don't move in the remaining narrow field that you see on the screen of the grip in the upper right corner will lose tracking, which obviously limits the use of this mode a lot. Otherwise, the operator has to be quite aware of the given situation, using subjects in the right ranging mode and with a corresponding framing.
You shall not pass.
For this test setup, let's end with a low light test. We simply switch off the lights in the studio. This is not pitch black, but as we stay at f4, all cameras are severely underexposed. For you to see anything at all with 800 ISO, we push the footage up a lot. The results are grainy. Surprisingly, the Alexa looks better in this comparison. I think it is fair to say that the PDAF doesn't work at all. The Focus Pro still hangs on to the subject and pulls focus quite reliably. Now, the S5 IIX can do something the Alexa can only dream of, and that is bumping up the ISO in the thousands. So we will do just that and go up to 4000 to see if that makes a difference for the PDAF. And as you see, the PDAF performance increases dramatically to something useful. Well, let's make that almost useful. Of course, the simplicity of the PDAF makes it still attractive, but in this kind of low light, you have to push the ISO hard to make it work, which might be the opposite of the dark and moody image you would like to create. If there were practicals like maybe torches in the background, those would completely blow out at 4000 ISO. This is a clear win for the Focus Pro that lets you expose your camera independent from the autofocus performance. Our next setup was on a shooting we had a couple of days later, and here we had the chance to try to fool the AI a bit. This is filmed on our Marvel F with a 35mm DZO Vespid Cyber. We also filmed the screen of the hand grip with a camera mounted to the rig to show what is happening with the subject recognition. We made it a bit harder for the Focus Pro's 30Hz refresh rate by filming in slow motion, introducing motion blur with pans and a handheld camera, and by irritating the LiDAR camera with strong lights and flares. As you can see, the Focus Pro is tracking me in the shot, but it loses its lock when I walk behind Neville. The shot still works as the Focus Pro still decides to stay with me without locking. Good call. Same situation here, and again, my lock is immediately broken when Neville covers me, but recovers when I come back into the image, just to lose lock another time. Again, even without an active lock, the Focus Pro makes the right call to presume that I'm the main subject, as long as I'm in the frame, of course. Let's switch roles. This time we want Neville to be the point of focus. Lock is on his face, and even when I come very close with my face, the AI can tell us apart and stays on Neville. Great job! Two subjects are crossing. Focus is on me and is supposed to stay on me. This time the lock is not broken and focus is spot on. We swap roles. Focus is on Neville and is supposed to stay on him. Again, lock is not broken and focus is spot on. Let's make this even harder by moving the camera and changing the framing significantly. Focus is on me, but the subjects will cross each other many times. We see that even extreme light hits don't irritate the system's ability to track, nor does showing the back of the head. But if the subject is completely covered, the lock is broken and lost. One more time, the AI figures out that I'm the main subject without the lock. We swap roles. Focus is on Neville and is supposed to stay on him. Just like in the last example, everything works fine until Neville is completely covered by my frame. Here you see how Max is changing the target from one subject to the other using the wheel of the grip. The sensitivity will determine the speed of the change. It would be a great addition if the effective speed of the wheel turn is changing the speed of the focus pull. Granted, we shot all these at a higher f-stop as it was very bright, but the Focus Pro has generally a pretty good idea what the main subject in the frame is. It would be a fantastic evolutionary jump if the AI would not only recognize a human or a car, but be specific with humans. In this case, understanding who Neville is and who I am. which would allow him to stay at me even when Neville covers me and recover my lock when I get back into frame. There is a lot of room for next generations, still autofocus is already impressive. As the LiDAR works independently from the main camera, we could have shot all these scenes with super high frame rates, getting the exact same results in autofocus performance. Something that just didn't exist before the Focus Pro. We have one more test to demonstrate automated manual focus, what is so cool about it, and to give you ideas how to use it. Quick recap, we are talking about the mode where the focus puller collaborates with the AI, meaning that a tracking is active and you can simply pull away to something else and release to return to the track subject at any time, seamlessly. All this with a focus knob on the hand unit and the wheel of the hand grip giving tactile feedback. Let's make it harder. Morty is moving into extreme close focus, and that tracking alone would be super hard to pull off manually. I can now pull away to what is happening in the background. Ta-da! A guy pulling focus. Shocking. On release we return to Morty and the focus is spot on. Let's recap that. Of course one could pull manually, but with this close focus, a marking on the floor or AB marks wouldn't have done the job. The movement of the body alone would have been enough for manual pulls to miss critical focus or lose it with the finest of movement. This one looks simple, but would be super hard to pull manually. This time I pull away from Morty to myself while Morty is tracked. On release, the focus hits Morty perfectly right into his movement. Let's see that again. And bingo! Try to do that manually without overshooting or losing focus immediately once you hit it. This is really excellent. Let's do something you couldn't just do with PDAF. There's a knife in the tree in the foreground and Morty is grabbing it. Keeping Morty in focus while he walks towards the camera at f2 is not trivial. For storytelling, I want to pull away from him and focus on the knife before he is there. The knife takes over, you know? I use the wheel and the grip to pull away and focus onto the knife manually. Could you have done that manually? Sure, but you are very likely to have missed critical focus while Morty is approaching. Not so with the Focus Pro. It has no problems to follow Morty perfectly. Does the vehicle recognition work? I would say that tracking works just as good as it does with humans. What we are more interested in, does a transition between a vehicle and a human recognition work? Not bad at all, but there was a tiny hiccup without there being an obvious reason. Still, surely good enough for anything but high-end commercial work. And remember that this is shot pretty wide open. Now you might think, you did the AutoFocus spoof with the DeLorean and everything, why didn't you shoot the test in that setup?
Is this the focus of the future, Nick?
Morty, it really looks like they did it.
And the answer is, of course, we were planning to just do that.
Cut!
The DeLorean was a hero to test the vehicle recognition features on, but we didn't do that. Why? By pure chance we found the natural enemy of the Focus Pro, and that is Haze. We were aware that fog can distract laser-based systems, what we weren't aware of to what extent. As you see in the behind-the-scenes images, we hazed the room quite a bit for textures and to make the studio a little less obvious. Also, the DeLorean itself has integrated fog machines adding to the mix. The fog you see in the final results is actually added in post to blend the many layers we shot using motion control. If the actual haze you see is a lot of haze, is very relative. I've seen sets with more and I've seen a lot more. Check out our Dry for Wet shooting in our ProTube episode. Anyways, on our AutoFocus set the LiDAR refused to do its job. Motor pulled left and right and just refused to be consistent. I assume that the reflection of the laser is altered by the haze. I don't think this is a deal breaker at all, but it's good to know when planning to use the DJI Focus Pro on projects. For the tests, I had to return to the studio the next day, which is why you see me alone in those. For the AutoFocus shooting itself, we didn't plan to use the LiDAR in the first place. To have several copies of Nick coexist in the same frame with a moving camera, we used the awesome motion control system of the Marmalade called Spike. The robot can repeat the same movement with absolute precision and perfect timing. And that has to include the focus that has to be in sync from shot to shot, meaning that autofocus is not usable in that context. Having advanced robotic motion control doesn't mean it was easy to pull off at all. We only had about 1 day to write and plan the story. For lack of alternatives, I used a Playmobil set and an iPhone to put together a pre-visualization, which is essential when doing VFX shots of this kind. You need to know what the camera is doing, the blocking, the dialogue, everything has to be perfectly in sync.
I got it, Morty! The future focus is right here!
In only 1 day of shooting, we turned the Playmobil pre-visualization into reality. The experience of Spike operator Christian helped a lot, and his Spike software allows to double time machines before the camera is even turned on. Talking about the DeLorean, it's a stunning replica that Michael Wagner created with a lot of passion and know-how out of a wrecked DeLorean, basically all by himself. We are very grateful that he played along with us for our shooting. Thank you, Michael. If you are interested in featuring the DeLorean on your event, you will find Michael's contact information in the comments. For me, it was such a joy to revisit my childhood memories in this way. Basically, a back to the past, just being older than Christopher Lloyd actually was during production. Morty is a little closer to his counterpart, almost spot on. Morty and I just had to act out the script, which is super hard if you have to act with non-existent parts a lot.
I was here first, wasn't I?
I just love Morty's slightly moronic performance. My Nick was supposed to be a mix of Doc and Rick, but it came out more like Beetlejuice. While we didn't use the Focus Pro itself on the shoot, I used the hand unit with the transmission system as my director's monitor, and I cannot tell you how helpful that was when one had to play stand-ins and interact being in the set. I can really recommend a system like this for all filmmakers that deal with complex situations. The stability of the connection is just perfect, and while transmission is not a zero latency system, the delay is neglectable for everything but the most time-critical applications. Battery life and fast charging is excellent. You can cycle 2 small and light batteries all day. Goodbye heavy V-Lock batteries. The only thing I really missed is the ability to flip the image in the device. Hence, you see me a lot holding the system upside down as Spike turned the camera upside down to extend its reach for the crane shots. I would like to really thank the Marmalade for their participation in this project, for the studio and the gear, Christian for operating the Spike, and the whole crew that made it so much easier for us by playing the stands in, by firing flashlights, operating wind machines, keeping the haze constant, and 1,000 other things. I would also like to thank Chris Caribou for spontaneously stepping in to shoot all this awesome behind the scenes footage you see sprinkled all over this episode. You are fantastic. Thank you for everybody who played along. We love you. You find links to all our partners in the description. It's time for a verdict. What do we think after spending 3 weeks with the DJI Focus Pro? Is the DJI Focus Pro perfect? Of course not, but it's very usable and accessible. It is the first real big step into an advanced focus system for, well, everybody. Not to say that everybody should get one. Many people like creators will be okay with a good PDAF, but when you make that crucial step into cine lenses, vintage lenses, cine cameras, or you shoot in super low light a lot, this is it. Battery life on the hand unit is stellar. A single MP F550 lasts something like forever. Actually, I have not recharged the one I put in when I got the device yet. I mean, that is weeks. Obviously, the Focus Pro is not for long-range, tailless subjects, and the 30 Hz refresh rate sets limits to the speed and reaction time. Probably not the right tool for your next doc about bats. What was problematic? Well, the Haze limitation is quite a bummer. Haze is just so very common in advanced filmmaking. I do understand that this is an actual LiDAR limitation in general. For the future, I will probably avoid self-driving cars when it's even slightly foggy. The Focus Pro is a little fiddly to set up, but honestly, we don't have a smashing idea how to simplify that. It's a complex system and it has to be, so it's kind of the nature of the system to be complex. I hope that updated firmwares improve the consistency of the different units in the system. The same lens database should be available and automatically exchanged between grip, monitor and control. Lenses should be individually nameable with all information, and you should be able to group lenses into sets. All that without being limited in numbers. It would be cool if the list is saved and editable inside the Ronin app, and that updates automatically to the grip, LiDAR, monitor and future gimbal systems. It would be nice to have a larger online database of lenses, including the lenses you would often find on higher-end productions, starting with things like the Atlas Orions and reaching up to Zeiss, Cooke, ARRI and Ingenieur lenses. With the old LiDAR and the R3 Pro and the old hub, it was possible to use the monitor on camera as a single shooter and have all these awesome focus assist features where you really need it, because you can concentrate on framing and everything, and just is really helpful. Unfortunately, this doesn't work with the new system. The new hub is actually missing one cable, one port to connect the grip to the system, which is very sad, because now you can't use it in that setup. I really hope that DJI comes up with a new hub or enables the old hub so we can do that again, because it really rocks. And the problem, of course, is that both inputs from the grip and from the control system would kind of compete against each other. But I think that's a relatively easy workaround in the firmware, so that maybe just the last input is the one who the system will go with. DJI, pretty please. We really enjoyed working with the Focus Pro and intend to do so in the future, starting with interviews or talkies or whatever else. The potential is just fantastic. If you want to buy the Focus Pro yourself and you think you benefited from the work we put into this episode, please consider to use the affiliate links that I'm going to put in the description. As usual, it's not more expensive for you, but we get a little something for the tip jar. Production quality like this is only possible with the help of our audience. So if you like nerdy content like this, made especially for you, please consider supporting us. And there are so many simple ways that you could help us. For example, by just leaving a like or leaving a comment. That always helps with the algorithm. And if you're super sweet, you could also spread the word. That will help us grow. If you're terribly nice, you can leave a donation with super thanks or even become one of our beloved members. We have interesting perks for those who believe in our mission. Thank you so much. All battles have been fought. I'm the last man standing. What remains is the battlefield. And that means that it's probably me that has to clean up this mess. We were planning to shoot a fitting outro to this episode, but we just didn't have the time for that in one day. So we have to live with the pre-visualization.
Nick, don't you we need a focus puller where we're going?
Where we going, Morty? We don't need focus pullers.
See you in the future, and until then, shoot something amazing.